Kei ngā iho o ngā maunga whakahi, kei ngā wai whakatere taniwha, tahuti mai ki te hui. Ko mihi ngā rangi tēnei, e mihi atu nei kia koutou katoa. Welcome to the Hui, Māori current affairs for all New Zealanders. E taro ake nei. They survived years of horrific sexual abuse at the hands of the man who was meant to protect them.
They were all asked to do sexual acts on each other. He would get them to watch porn and then reenact that porn.
Now the Kingi Whānau are bearing their souls and reclaiming their mana.
We're free, you know, we've made it. This is us.
It's about celebrating our survival.
And standing with other survivors to celebrate their resilience.
What were you scared about?
I was ashamed. You know, I don't want people to know what I went through.
Our stories might not be exactly the same, but you're not alone.
Karahui hui mai. It's our silent shame. The scourge of sexual violence is one of our key social problems, undermining the health and well-being of whānau around Aotearoa. Now, one whānau is speaking out about their experience of sexual violence and standing with other survivors to share their stories. They do so in the hope it helps others to step into the light and begin to heal. Kei a Rawani Pereira tēnei pūrongo. He whakatūpatotanga, a warning it contains disturbing kōrero that may distress some viewers.
Confronting their past, abuse survivors reveal their harrowing stories for the first time.
We're here because we have all been unsilenced.
I wanted to be the one to start talking so they can see that I'm, you know, opening up.
Their role models speaking out and stepping into the spotlight.
Letting all that hurt out and just turning it into happiness.
An intimate look at a unique kaupapa that's breaking the cycle of sexual abuse and domestic violence.
We want the message to get out there and be like, if we can do it, you can do it. Our stories might not be exactly the same, but you're not alone.
It's nature. I run in the redwoods. I love to swim in the lake. I meditate. Those are the types of things that ground me. You can't really ever tell what's going inside of anyone, really, not really.
Sexual abuse has touched the lives of 3 generations of the Kingi Whānau.
Sexual abuse was the root cause of our trauma, not only from my family growing up with my 4 sisters and my mother being sexually abused, but also my own children.
Her 4 children are all victims of incest, sexually violated by their father.
When you're married to someone for so long and you've had children to them, you never imagine that they could harm your children in this way.
The Kingi Whānau are an example of Aotearoa's shameful statistics, where 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 7 boys experience sexual abuse by their 16th birthday.
He's their dad, and it's easier to believe that he wouldn't do it.
Renee was an innocent 17-year-old when she met 42-year-old Joseph Blair. Brought up in a strict Jehovah's Witness family, Renee turned her back on the church after she met her much older husband in 1999.
I never knew any other relationship. I hadn't been in another relationship. I hadn't experienced life, I guess. And for me, marriage is the direction you go in when you're a Jehovah's Witness. So it was something that I definitely had ingrained in my mind. He had quite a sexual appetite, and it was quite a bizarre one. He would often just sleep with me. I'd be asleep and he would have sex with me. I'd wake up and my undies would be off. Yeah, I experienced horrible sexual abuse by him.
And Renee would soon discover she wasn't his only victim.
The realisation of what he'd done to our children happened over time because it took a long time for each to speak.
When the couple finally separated in 2006, Renee was unaware Blair was offending against their children. She later learned that while spending time with their dad, they were being sexually abused.
He abused them often in the toilet, in the shower. They were all asked to do sexual acts on each other. He would get them to watch porn and then reenact that porn. Sonia remembers them being underneath the house and he would be filming them and they would be doing sexual acts on each other.
It wasn't until one of the kids complained of an injury to their private parts that Renee's worst fears were realised.
I was ready to kill Joe, really, yeah.
You knew it was him?
I knew it was him, yeah. The next morning I went in to see a detective. I remember him saying, you know, what's the current arrangement? And I said, well, it'll be week on, week off, so this is our week. He said, can you make up a story where you're going away or somewhere till we sort of sorted? So I did. I rang Joe and I said to him, hey, we're going to go away. We're going to go camping for a few weeks. So the next few weeks were quite horrific.
So in the end, did the police lay charges?
No. Unfortunately, when Oranga Tamariki stepped in, the information that they got wasn't sufficient enough, so it was put, they said to me it's not closed, but it's put to the side.
Blair never had to face the allegations made against him. He took his own life in 2013. Unsurprisingly, he too was a victim of sexual abuse.
Did he tell you about his own abuse that he had suffered?
He did, yeah. Often when he would drink, he would have a lot of stories that he would tell. And so that was when he spoke of his stepfather. So it wasn't his father, it was his stepfather. Someone who raised him and someone who he loved would also sexually abuse him.
The trauma of their childhood has affected each child differently. Renee's eldest daughter, Sonia, is now 20 years old.
Do you think you blanked out a lot of stuff?
Yes, I definitely have, yeah. And it's not just the stuff that has happened that I've blacked out, it's a lot of my childhood that I've blacked out. So there's a lot of things I don't remember.
Rangatahi who experience sexual violence are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide, something Sonia also considered.
There was a lot of times where I did want to end my life and everything. I had thoughts about it. But I just thought that my siblings are more important to me. My mum's more important to me. And I just didn't want that for my mum or my siblings. So I stayed strong for all of them.
The whānau is now thriving and Renee has found a loving relationship with new partner Werenika Tekoru.
It's honestly, it means everything to me. When you have like a soulmate and you've got someone there for you through everything.
She is the definition of a wahine toa, I think, yeah.
Sonia and her siblings now have another mum to support them.
I am honestly so proud of my mum being in my life. I always wonder how I would be now if she never walked in. I just love the way we are now.
Coming up, we meet the wahine who helped the kingi whānau to heal.
This is about reclaiming our mana that was taken away from us. It's about celebrating our survival.
And is encouraging others to step into the light.
Auraki mai anō. Speaking out is one of the most effective ways of breaking the cycle of intergenerational sexual abuse. But for many whānau, that takes extraordinary bravery and strength. Now, with the help of a Rotorua mother, families are opening up about their abuse stories with renewed confidence and aroha. Anei te wāhanga tūrua o tēnei ripoata.
Recovering from the trauma of intergenerational sexual abuse has been a long and emotional road for Renee Kingy and her whānau. Many victims of sexual abuse never get over the devastation, but meeting Kahira Rata Oli has played a significant role in helping them to heal.
Kahira definitely gave us the tools that we needed to move forward and to speak.
When you have a mother and the children coming out and sharing their journey, walking alongside each other, you just think, wow.
Kahira runs a charity called Save Our Babies, which raises awareness of domestic violence and sexual abuse. Through her work, she's taught Renee and her whānau the importance of sharing their story.
When I first met her right from the beginning, I told her my story and I hadn't told anyone. She is the one who got me talking. She's the one who got me talking to my own children and having family meetings. Family meetings for us were so important. That's where all of the stuff started to come out over time.
As part of her charity, Kahira's created a collection of portraits entitled Unsilenced. Behind the covers are the images of abuse survivors bearing their souls. Each tells a different story, and Kahira says it's about reclaiming their mana.
I see beauty. I see beauty. I see survivor. I see free. I see unsilenced.
Kahira organised the intimate photo sessions and has worked with all of the participants.
We've got whānau that are 50 plus that bear it all. And that was a very empowering moment to be able to be present there. So I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one. I get to be a part of all these stories and journeys.
Kahira also took part in the photo shoot and invited our camera along to capture the moment.
Yeah, let your legs dangle up.
How could I not go out there and do that? And they've come to me and they've been able to bear it all, and then I'm going to be all like, can't do this. You know, for me that would be a slap in the face to them.
1, 2, 3.
Because, hey, this is 51 years, been through hell and back and many a times. I'm a survivor and I'm a very proud survivor.
Renee's children are also survivors of sexual abuse. Her eldest daughter, Sonia, took part in the photo shoot, posing next to her mum.
I definitely didn't want her doing it alone. If my mum's going to go and do it, I won't let her do it by herself. I'll always be there for her. It felt good. I wasn't really feeling confident at the time, so I did just go in brads and undies. But now that I look back at it, I do regret not going full out like my mum did.
Kahira has found their bravery to bear all remarkable. She's created an environment for survivors to make them feel at ease.
My niece is our photographer, and she's been our photographer for this whole photo shoot. And she's very talented as well. She comes from a place of no also. And so you can feel comfortable where you know you're not being judged, because we've been judged all our lives, eh? And so it's very important for me to bring people into that space where our whānau are going to feel safe.
And it's not just wahine who are taking part. There's more reluctance from male survivors to share their abuse stories, making Hamihita's portrait with his partner truly inspirational.
What were you scared about?
I was ashamed. You know, I don't want people to know what I went through. It's something that I wished I could just close my eyes and not remember anything. But then, if I'm going to be quiet and be embarrassed, then how am I going to help, you know, the younger generation of my family?
The 38-year-old kept the abuse he suffered a secret for most of his life.
I'm the only one in my whānau that is this far and is speaking about it. And that's what gave me the mana to carry on and be a part of this kaupapa.
And when you see them, all tense and you can feel them shaking, you can see them shaking and they're quivering, and you can see the tears sitting there, and then you can see that they're gradually, all these things are breaking down. You're like, I was a part of that.
We've broken a chain, we've broken a cycle.
Breaking down their barriers and sharing their experiences as a whānau has been life-changing for Renee and her kids.
We definitely come together as a family. It's the only way that we can really cope to get through. As sad as it is, it brought a familiar feeling, and we were able to, from that trauma, pull ourselves to a better space together.
Having endured abuse from a young age, Renee has not only managed to rebuild her life, she's now helping to better the lives of others. She's in the final stages of setting up a 12-unit homeless shelter in Rotorua.
I've been working with our whānau for 3 years now, within Rotorua and Tauranga, and I've noticed the gaps. All of those missing pieces, I sort of just put them together and thought, right, let's give this a go.
So this is one of the completed rooms.
It's about working with our homeless whānau, getting them through the emergency into the transitional, but really focusing on that transitional period so that when they move into their final home, that they're able to remain in that space.
What does that mean to you to have this and be this next start for you?
It's a lifelong dream, yeah. For our entire family, it's not just myself. We've all worked through a journey and we've got to this space together.
And tonight, in front of their loved ones, is a celebration of how far they've come.
But can we remember, whilst each of them are coming on stage, the life they have lived before tonight?
Renee and her children, along with other survivors, are taking part in Unsilenced, a charity fashion show organised by Kahira. Having bared their souls in the photo shoot, they're now taking centre stage and setting themselves free. For Sonia, it's about making a stand for rangatahi who have endured an abusive childhood.
Is there something that you'd like to say to them?
Yeah. Remember that there's always someone out there who will talk to you and listen to your story. They'll help you to uplift yourself and find who you are as a person.
The event a testament to the resilience and courage of all abuse survivors.
We're holding our heads high. We're hoping to be the voice for the voiceless.
I hope my whānau see this, and I hope they not only see us having fun, but the kaupapa behind us, and also one day speak up quicker.
It's given us a strength that we didn't know we had.
It's empowerment, yeah, it's we made it. It's that moment of, yes, just so free. We're free, we've made it, this is us.
These survivors, silenced no more.
Ka pai kia kaha koutou. Nā Rawani Pereira Tera Purongo, if you've experienced sexual abuse and you're looking for some support, you can call Lifeline 0800 543 354. Hei muri i ngā whakatairanga ka kōrero a hau ki a tākuta Shane Reti, kai arihi tuarua o te Pāti Nahinara. Tahuti mai anō ki te hui. More than 3 million people have now died of COVID-19 across the globe, while New Zealand's elimination strategy has been lauded internationally. Here at home, the government has been under fire over its management of MIQ facilities, the testing of frontline staff and the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine. It comes after revelations an infected MIQ security guard hadn't been tested for 6 months and hadn't been vaccinated. To discuss, I'm joined now via Zoom by National Party Health spokesperson Dr. Shane Reti. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe mihi nā rangi, good to speak with you.
You too. A few issues raised tonight, the hold-up of the vaccine rollout for the elderly in some of the regions and a new worry about the transmission via the ventilations in the MIQ. What's gone wrong here?
Yes, I saw Nick Wilson commenting on this, and he was raising the point that we talked about the ventilation issues and some of the other issues around having hotels be isolation centres many, many months ago. So that's a concern that we're only now figuring it out or understanding that, yes, this is airborne and, yes, the hotel ventilation can transmit. So that's a concern that we're so late to that story. I think, there's several parts at MIQ. If we talk about testing, I think there's several sentinel moments that brought us to last week. I think the first is if we go back to around August 10th, the Americold isolation outbreak, the coronavirus on frozen peas. And I think if we look at that, that was when we first started to understand that border workers weren't being tested and needed to be. And so a policy came in saying they'd be tested weekly to fortnightly. And we all thought, okay, that's a good policy, let's implement that. It turns out that wasn't happening because we then know around about February 13, the Valentine's Day outbreak in Auckland, if you like, that we had a border worker working in a private facility but still at the border who wasn't being tested. So the policy we thought was in place still wasn't being implemented. And then last week we get yet again another border worker who isn't being regularly tested. Fundamentally what we needed way back then, and definitely what we need now, is a compulsory testing register for border workers. And I think a good question to ask is, well, we've had these events over 9 months now, including 10 days a week ago. Do we have that here today? And what we know is it's still going to take some time to actually implement. So it's not like we're a learning environment. We're not a learning ecosystem and learning well around coronavirus at the border.
With the bubble now opening up to Australia, is a time for mandatory testing? They have that in Australia. Would you support that, of border workers?
Well, yes, absolutely. Border workers need to be tested in a compulsory format, in a structured format. But I think we can also make it that little bit easier by requiring a much wider rollout of saliva testing. The nasopharyngeal swab does turn people off. We need to make it easy for border workers to do the right thing. And so I think a widespread use of saliva testing would help that.
What are your thoughts on the suspension or the pause on the flights from India? Is it time to, start them up again, or would you support the stay?
I support the stay. I think we need to be very careful with our high-risk countries. And it turns out that with these 60 people who then arrived on flights from India, that they all were positive. I think there's things we could look at doing. I think we need to think about, for our high-risk countries, whether we should be doing rapid antigen testing before they hop on the plane. That's the test that you get a result back in 15 minutes. It's quite cheap, and again you get that instant answer, because our concern is they may have a day 3, a negative pre-departure test 3 days before they hop on the plane, but over that period of 3 days they then may catch it and they hop on the plane infected. If at the airport they were having rapid antigen testing, we've got yet another sensible and cost-effective measure that strengthens up our perimeter.
When you think about, the Prime Minister has talked about, having to be really safe when when we're opening up bubbles with other countries. What about the Pacific? The Cook Islands have been calling for a bubble for a long, long time. There's no COVID there. Are we ignoring our Pacific cousins?
Yes, I think as long as we're implementing good policy at the border and have good mechanisms in the community, if there is a community outbreak, then one would have thought that we'd have opened up a bubble with the Cook Islands a lot earlier than what we're hearing. 1 May is what we're hearing. And it also raises the question of Samoa and Tonga, who have never had a case, and Fiji, where the last case was a year ago. And we can also see the other benefits that might come from this, not just joining families, but we've had fruit falling on the ground in the Hawke's Bay. And we know that some of those workers from Samoa and Tonga would love to be able to work here and repatriate those funds back into their homes and into their families. So yes, it is very timely and probably overdue to be looking at these realm countries and other countries that we have a special relationship with.
You've issued a call to arms, if you like, over cancer drugs. You know, we've got young people like Case, a young boy in the Manawatu who suffers from cystic fibrosis, who can't get Trikafta. In fact, he's taking his hikoi to Parliament next month. What would your private member's bill do to ensure that he gets the medicine he needs?
So my private member's bill needs to have a small scope. So I'm particularly focusing on cancer medicines. And it turns out that if you're unfortunate enough to contract cancer, to have cancer, and that if you have a medicine recommended to you that's not funded by Pharmac, not only do you pay the $60,000 to buy the medicine, but there's a sentence in the legislation that says if it's not funded by Pharmac, you have to then pay for the administration. And the administration, which is a drip in an armchair for maybe 2 or 3 hours, but that cost in a private facility can be as much as $1,000 a week, sometimes as much as actually buying the cancer medicine itself. So I think we need to ease that burden for people who are recommended medicines that Pharmac won't fund. They've already taken out a mortgage, they've borrowed, they've gone to give a little, they've already sacrificed a lot to buy the medicine. Surely we can find an armchair for them so that they can have it administered in a public system. The call to arms is we need 61 MPs to say, that's a good idea, we should talk about this. Let's hear people's stories and send that private member's bill to Select Committee. That's the call to arms. On Wednesday, the government will release details about the shape of the Māori Health Authority. In the past, you haven't supported that. Have you changed your view or still the same? So we need to see what that looks like. But for me, there's several principles here that whatever the new structure comes up with needs to follow. The first is this needs to be based on need. For health resources, whoever has the greatest need should receive those resources. Well, surely Māori have the greatest need. You know the stats. So wouldn't a Māori Health Authority fulfil some of those needs and with some commissioning powers and direct funding? And so on that principle, right, you name almost any metric and Māori are at the front of that queue. They have the highest need, but the top line principle still needs to be need. And then secondly, it needs to be one integrated system, end to end. We've talked and tried to... So Dr. Reti, do you support the Māori Health Authority or not? To varying degrees. So do you support the Māori Health Authority? I support principles of need and I support principles of integration in one system. We need to see... Isn't that just semantics? Because you know very well you tell me what it looks like then. The inequities in health don't favour Māori. But you need to then tell me what the health authority looks like. Is it funding? Is it commissioning? I mean, we won't know until Wednesday. Should it be? And we should... Well, if you are going to give something strategic intent, it needs to have clout. Otherwise, it's just another policy group. And I know this was the dilemma for the Roche-Simpson report. Now, this is coming out on Wednesday, but let's also not be distracted. There's 3 things coming out on Wednesday, potentially a Māori Health Authority, potentially Health New Zealand, but also that reduction in DHBs. And I was out at Tairāwhiti on Friday, and I am very concerned that there'll be one DHB that will be consumed by a parent DHB somewhere. Just before we leave, because we're running out of time, I just want to ask you, would you support rolling out the self-swabbing for cervical testing, yes or no? I would roll it out in a blink and I put it into Campaign 2020. It's a huge way to reduce inequity for Māori. Every other country and amongst our key trading partners is. We must see that this year. Tēnā koe. Thank you so much for your time, called Dr. Shane Reti Tera. Thanks for joining us e hoa mā. Ko hikina te hui mo tēnei rā, pai marere kia tātou katoa. The hui is made with support from New Zealand On Air.